Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Universal Lens. I am John Emilio, as always, along with this guy.
You're a very sleepy John Emilio.
Yeah, I got very chill all of a sudden.
People want energy.
My mind just kind of went silently blank for a
These
while.
people want a show.
Yeah, it's good for them. Congratulations.
Right? They pay big bucks for this.
Yes, seeing that they haven't. No, thank you everybody for coming back. Hope everybody had a nice week. Hope this finds everybody well and in good spirits. And if not, that's okay too.
No, it's not. Don't lie.
Why?
Not okay. We got to be happy all the time.
Oh.
Happy?
Do we? Do we have to be happy all the time?
So, Bob.
Should we be happy all the time?
What did you do?
When? Today? Nothing. I went to the gym.
Yeah, the happy all the time. You know, I'll admit, I'll be the first one to admit, I love a happy feeling. And I'll be the first one to admit that I find when I notice that I'm looking for it. I'm like a dog looking for a treat. You know what I mean? The dog is sniffing. They're not sniffing because they're looking for something to eat. And like my mind does that and be like, hey, we want to be happy too.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
We have been told that that's our natural, that should be our natural
But
state,
because it's us, because it's me,
false, fake news.
this is what we do. I notice it. And
Of course.
you know, I catch my little man up here. I catch him. I see what you're doing. You're chasing the happiness trap. Relax. We don't have to be happy at all times. If happiness comes, hey, okay, I'm good.
Oh yeah, enjoy it when it shows up and allow it to leave when it does.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. Today was one of those. In the morning I was feeling weird. You know, weird in the sense, you know, like
What were you telling?
you know, like I was driving to the office and I was just like I wasn't feeling 9 or 10. I was feeling like, you know,
Oh my God.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you start to question. I start to, not me.
The mind.
Yeah, starts to go. Is something wrong? Do you think we're sad? Yo, pattern. Stop. We're done. Stupid.
Your mind hijacked you.
Yes. It wanted to.
Well, yeah. Okay. Rephrase. Your mind wanted to hijack you. It wanted to hijack you.
That's it.
It wanted to give you a narrative to follow and go with. Well, because again, that's what it does, right? That's what the human mind does. That's what it's made to do. It's made to protect at every level, protect at every corner, and from everything, whether it's fictitious, real, made up,
So
media driven.
I just read you that little article about the psychologist who
Yes.
talked about PTSD, who talked about all sorts of other trauma and everything, and he was talking about the amygdala and how the amygdala still perceives that it's still in fight or flight mode. It never
Gets stuck there.
yeah, it gets stuck. Exactly. It's in a loop. And now the question always comes to my mind: how many of us, including myself, prior to mindfulness, walk around like that every day?
In fight or flight mode.
Yeah, and I
A
got
lot more than I would like to say.
yeah, and I got to tell you that it does affect. I'm going to use a big word, the zeitgeist. Yeah, I've used it on this show before.
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
It does affect the overwhelming web that connects us. You know, the invisible lines that connect us,
Yeah.
the energy.
Oh, sure. If you're stuck in that mode, absolutely. It's not hard to know if somebody is kind of stuck in that fight or flight mode, whether it's, a trauma or something that they're dealing with, or anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorder, no matter what it is. It's not hard to pick up on that energy output that they're giving out when they're actively stuck in that mode of trying to resolve something. The problem is most times there's nothing to resolve, but the human mind doesn't understand that. It's doing its job. It's just doing it in a very misguided way. It's like the car is driving, but nobody's at the wheel, and it's just the car's just doing whatever it wants to do, and nobody's paying attention. And all of a sudden, the car just wants to say we're going to go 85 miles an hour, and we're going to stay going 85 miles an hour,
And you're just shivering.
and you're just yes, but not realizing that at any moment you could take control and shift the direction of the car by turning the wheel. Same thing you could do is you could shift your focus away from what your mind is telling you it should be focusing on in this misguided, misaligned way, and focus on something else. And when people, they try to answer that constant question, there's an emergency in my head, whether it's a trauma, like a PTSD thing, or it's an OCD thing, or it's an anxiety thing, or whatever the worry or the fear might be, that part of the brain lights up. Certain people, it lights up a little brighter. Certain people, fucking thing doesn't come on. I don't know why. For most people, it lights up. For a number of us, it lights up very intensely. And it's hard to ignore that, but you're not trying to ignore it. You just want to say, okay, it's great. You could be here, but I'm going to focus on what I want to focus on. But that takes a purposeful shift on you. Like, you have to engage and shift. Doesn't happen on its own. You have to acknowledge it's there, but then look away. Not, you're not here. You're here. And then look away to where you want to be. And like he said in the article, and we said on the show 1,000 times, sitting with it and allowing it to be there until then your mind gets the idea, gets the message that this isn't as important right now, so we're going to tone this back down. So the human mind is just doing its job, but our focus is actually like food for it. So if we focus on that one part, if we focus on that fear and that anxiety and that we have to answer this question, I have to know why. Why is my mind this? Or we're replaying this thing over and over again, and we feel like we're stuck in this fear and this fight or flight. If we keep focusing on it, we're feeding it, and we're feeding it, and we're feeding it. And the mind keeps thinking this is where we have to be to keep X alive, to keep this person safe. But by shifting your focus, your mind then realizes that you're not paying it, you're not giving the attention that it requires here, and it'll start quieting down on its own. You can't stop it. You can't, there's no off button.
Right.
God, that'd be so great if there was, but there is no off button, right? You have to just shift. That's why I love it. It's a shift in the focus. But then you always get to who's shifting the focus. So, like, even an article like that, which is so well written, and I'll see if I can actually cut it in, part of it, that you were doing so well, that person wrote so well and explained like how it works in a very clinical, scientific way. It never makes, even though they did mention ACT, but that person never made light of who's actually in control or in charge. Who's the one that's seeing the anxiety? Who's the one that's noticing the fear? And by the way, that's it. Like, that's the aha moment. That's the aha message. Who's the person that's watching it? So I can give you 1,000 things to do and how to overcome all these things, but it's when you realize who's actually watching it happen, all of a sudden you get that little bit. That's where that separation comes in. You go, wait, I shifted my focus, but who's shifting the focus? If I'm my mind and my mind's focusing here, how do I shift to somewhere else? That's when you realize you're not that automatic thought pattern, right? And people who experience things like PTSD, or like for me, it was, puro, like that purely thought-based form of obsessive compulsive disorder. It's in the beginning, yes, it's very difficult to discern the difference between the both. Like, your mind is so charged, like it's here, and you're like, okay, I know it's here, and you keep.
That's right before step one.
That's right before step
You're
one.
at the height of
But a lot of
madness.
If a lot of people don't know about this or the things we speak about, or acceptance, commitment therapy, they don't understand that shift is actually a shift in the awareness that's able to say, I want my attention to be here, not here. I can't control that. I want my attention to be here because this is where my life is actually happening right now. And that gets you there. I hate to say it gets you there quicker, but it does, because it opens up a whole neural pathway that you didn't know existed. You didn't know was there, because you're charging It's like turning on the light switch and the light goes on here, and you just leave it on. So that power just keeps running right to that one part. That amygdala just stays lit up like a Christmas tree. But until you realize that there's a switch on the other side of the wall, right, that has a dimmer on it, and now you could dim it there also, and you could control it by just shifting, going, okay, I'm gonna focus here for a while, right, and all of a sudden you'll be able to dim it down. So it's an impulse of energy that we give, and that amygdala just stays on, and that's where you get the panic and all the other, all the symptoms that come along with it. And your body starts to deteriorate, and you start sleepless nights. You can't eat. You can't do this because your stress levels are just maxed out at this point.
You're caught in that narrative.
Yeah, you're caught in it. Yeah, you believe it's happening, and it's happening now.
So, like, let me just say right here, it's a quick little commercial break. The reason we do what we do is to basically we have this conversation model, this conversation approach where we record our conversation, but it's not for you to just observe us converse. I think we're trying to relate so that you can relate. We're telling our stories, we're giving examples so that you watching can say, well, what is this mindfulness stuff? I have thoughts that recur, thoughts that get a hold of me, things that could be a theme. Maybe there is no theme. Maybe it's just all of a sudden I can't control my anxiety. I can't control my going down a rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. Next thing you know, I am 3 hours in researching something that is completely useless.
Been there, done that.
So anyway, I made that break so that we're not just some program that you turn on to just see two guys, kill an hour. No, we talk about these things and we put it out every week so that hopefully there is some life being impacted because we've been there. In other words, we live there. We are people that used to have the overheightened amygdala, and the amygdala would run away with my emotions and your emotions and thoughts and everything else.
Absolutely.
And we would get caught up in that narrative. And now I read this article that I had read, between us before the camera was on. And then I see what he's saying about don't sit in your trauma, sit with your trauma. So a lot of us don't understand that we have the option to sit in or sit with. We just think, no, we sit in it because we didn't even know that we have an option. So just knowing you have an option to sit in or sit with, and then I know that anybody who has not tried mindfulness, ACT, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't understand, doesn't believe, cannot fit in their mind that they have an option to sit with. And as a matter of fact, if you tell that to somebody at the heightened stages of their madness, of their,
Sure.
they won't even believe you. You know what I mean? Like, if I take somebody that I can see is going down, you can see they're in a trance, they're in a narrative, and you may call it out. If it's like that person, if they don't want to hear it, if they don't believe it, as a matter of fact, you might insult them by saying, hey, you're kind of buying into a story in your head that's not really happening, and can you imagine, like, if you had a friend that was in the military who has true PTSD, and imagine that you can see that he's about to have an episode where,
okay,
and imagine that you just put the brakes and say, before you continue, I can see you're getting charged. I can see that, you're starting to shake, and you're starting to raise, and you're starting to get different color, and you're starting to, and you call them out on it, and you say, hey, sometimes I understand where you've been in life. You might carry some trauma. You want to label it PTSD. I want to be gentle with what I'm saying. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I do want to bring to your attention that you don't have to just sit in it. You could sit with it.
If then you got to explain exactly
Yeah.
the difference between both, because those are two terms that, while they sound somewhat similar, sit in and sit with, they're very different.
So let this show be a proxy for anybody who may be watching and that might be like,
What's the difference?
oh yeah, and let them,
What's the difference between sitting in something and sitting with it? Sitting in something is you're in a state of fear, no control. You're believing everything 100%. You're reliving what's happening. You're in it. Like the whole, the old, like, I'm in it. Like, you're in it. You're in the movie.
That's right.
You're in the story. You're in you're in that book that you're reading. You're in it.
That's
and
right.
And there are times we've used that where, like, if you're reading a book, sometimes you're like, I felt like I was in the book. Like, I felt I was there with them.
Yeah.
Because it's your mind taking the story and
It's
saying,
amazing.
and implanting you in it. Now, for things like PTSD or anxiety or obsessive compulsive disorder, the in is terrifying. It's not a fairy tale book where you're imagining, oh, wow, you're in this, you feel like you're in this hellhole in it and just experiencing it over and over again. When you're sitting with something, you're alongside. It's there, so are you. So it's there. And so in makes, for me, in equates to one. There's a binding. We're in it. With it, now we're two. So here's that trauma. Here's that experience. Here's that thought. Here's that emotion. Here's that urge, right? Whatever it might be. And here's me. We're sitting with it, but I'm not connected to it. I'm noticing that it's there.
Those experiences that are the trauma.
Well, I should go like this, actually.
Well, those experiences that are the trauma are still there.
Yes, 100%.
But they're just not one with you.
No, but there's this with. The with is the alongside a noticing that it's there. The in is, like I said before, they're
gelled.
They gel together.
Yeah.
They're one.
And you can't shake it.
No, it's the equivalent of being in the middle of a traffic intersection and like, oh my God, to being with the traffic and just watching it pass by. So I'm here, I see the traffic, no problem, I see it. It's annoying, it's busy, it's fast, it's happening, oh my God, it's all here, but I'm not in the middle of it. The in is you're in the middle and now you're trying to control things that are uncontrollable. And that control game just keeps you even in it even more and ingrains you even more into it. So that's why I love in that article how he said, what was his name? Will Brown, right?
Will Brown.
I'm going to see if I'm going to try to cut that article in. We were actually recording because I started recording and then we just started the show. That's why I love that in and that with. It's a great way to show the watcher and the mind, the one that sees and the one that is the mind and the one that sees the mind. And I think that's kind of what he maybe was saying. So without even realizing maybe that he was saying it.
So I like,
or maybe he did. I shouldn't speak for him.
I love the technical or the medical, explanation.
It's very helpful.
I love it. Me.
Yeah.
But they're probably, let's say 50-50. There's another part of the country or world that might say, I don't need to know what an amygdala is and all this. Just do me a favor. Help me.
Which resonates with
help
you.
me heal. So, technically speaking, yeah, your amygdala is being set off and it doesn't have the regulator. It's just on heightened awareness. Hey, we're here. We don't do that. Oh, be careful. Oh, think about that. You know what? Research this. All right. But forget about what it's called. There's a feeling that I get. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It makes me nervous. It makes me anxious. It makes me think and do things that I don't want to do. It makes me go down this rabbit hole. So forget about what it's called. What should I do? What should I do? What do you recommend I do to and that's why we take a phrase that he mentioned was sit in it or sit with it.
Yeah.
You have been sitting in it.
We've never actually framed it that way. We've framed it 1,000 other ways, but we've never framed it.
You have
that
been
way.
sitting in it.
Yeah.
You have been. That's default mode, sitting in it.
Yes, for most people, correct.
And that's why you feel the way you feel. That's why your thought patterns are the way they are. And that's why there's a secret yearning for change. Some are secret. Some are overt. Some are ready to change. Some are raising their hand saying, I want to change. I am willing. But it's the secret one that I love. It's the secret one, the one that says, oh, I'm good. And you know they're not. You know what I mean? That's the good one. That's the majority of people. They all have, again, I say they all have, and I include myself in they all have. We all have a default mode.
Sure.
We don't go through life with a mindful approach because, quite frankly, it's not taught to us. Quite frankly, it's not something.
It's something that you have, and you just. It's the sad part is you don't have to be taught it. You have to just understand it.
We don't even pick it up along the way because it's not introduced to us. So
because you always think you're in it. You always think you always believe you are it. You always believe you are it.
The only version of the story that exists is the default one, the one that
the story.
That's it.
It's the only version of the story is the story. We believe the story is who we are. We believe the story is our life. We believe the story is our reality and everything that we experience. When that's not not even technically. That's not true.
So when you come to the realization that if you wanted help or if you wanted to break out of that pattern, I could sit in my issues and I could sit with my issues. And just for the simple fact that you choose to sit with your issues, you're on a path. You're on a path because you realize that if I sit here in it constantly, I get the result that I get. I get the anxiety. I get the thought, the crazy thoughts. I get the fears. I get the incessant stream of, whatever that rumination may be.
When you're in it, you don't have choice. There's no choice. You don't have, when you're in it, when you're sitting in something or in whatever, you believe there's no choice because you don't realize that choice is still there to sit. When you sit with something, now you have a choice to shift your focus, a choice to invest your energy in something else. But there's a little price that has to be paid. And the price that has to be paid is you have to sit with this uncomfortable feeling. So it's not shift and forget. It's shift and bring it with you if it wants to come. So it's an allowing it to be there while you shift your energy and your focus into something else. It's like, people say, for the last 2 hours, I didn't even think about it. Be like, what's changing your reality? Like, what's changed in life that you didn't think about it? So you didn't think about it and you felt great. So what was it? Like, nothing was happening to you physically, like, oh my God, and for the last 2 hours, it's gone. No. What happened? Your focus went somewhere else. So your reality with that changed. So if we could do that, if we could do it like that, like just get involved, not do things or to stay busy, but if you could shift your focus to something you want to shift it into and live that reality and live that life and be in that moment, you could do that. Not that thought won't come up, but you can make that choice to do that constantly, all day, all the time, and your reality starts to change more and more and more, and that distance between that old thought pattern starts to get farther and farther because you're making a choice to live your life a certain way. Dr. Stephen Phillipson has a great article called Choice. If you look him up, if you just Google Dr. Stephen Phillipson and Choice article, I'm sure it'll come up. One of the top hits on Google. It's a great article. He's a therapist in Manhattan. My former therapist worked started at his clinic. He's one of the guys who coined the actually what pure O is years ago. It's a great article and it speaks just about this, like understanding that there's a choice that you get to make. And as you keep making that choice, you don't make it once. You keep making that choice. The choice becomes a default. Now it becomes so your default mode was in, but now your default mode becomes with. And without you realizing it, and you're not doing it because with the intention of making in go away, that in feel, no. It's with the intention of this is where I want my focus to be. That's a byproduct of it. Like the in goes farther away. That in feeling goes farther away because you're not investing energy in it. So it just naturally gets to be farther away. Not that it doesn't come back once in a while, or even maybe once in a while more often at times, and then you don't hear from. But that's not the point. Whether that happens or not, it's not the point. Eckhart Tolle, I was listening to one of his podcasts at the gym, shocking, and
to get pumped up
as I'm doing biceps, and listen to Eckhart Tolle, and there was somebody, a lady asked him a question. It was one of his gatherings. She said, "Her husband was sick, and he just got diagnosed with Parkinson, and if there's anything he could do to heal himself." And all Eckhart, I mean, there's really not much of an answer you could give there, but all he said was, the more you invest your time in presence, right? He goes, the body tends to slow things down, like progression of diseases slowed. And I've heard this plenty of times, like it's documented where people who practice mindfulness, progression of sicknesses slow or go away, disappear, but also slow down to a snail's pace because they're not investing energy into that worry and that fear, which amplifies the body. And our body is a chemical, it's a chemistry set, right? Okay. So it depends on what we're pumping affects us. He said, but you don't do it with the intention of healing yourself. He goes, I don't be mindful and live this life with the intention of saying, okay, but my Parkinson's got to go away. Because it doesn't work that way, because you're doing it with the intention of that, and your mind realizes that's what you're doing. It's saying, I'm doing it because this is what I want to do. This is how I want to live my life. And he said exact same thing I was just saying. Is a byproduct of living that life is your health improves on its own without you really doing much. In other words, goes the Parkinson, maybe if it was going to last 20 years or 10 years, maybe it lasts 20 now. Maybe it lasts a little bit longer because you're slowing that down. He goes, but you're not doing it with the intention of, okay, I'm going to be mindful so I don't get sick. I'm going to be mindful so my this goes away. It's like, I'm going to be mindful so I don't have that thought. Does that work? No, it doesn't work. I'm going to be mindful so I don't have any more OCD spikes.
I'm going to be mindful so no pink elephant. And here comes the pink elephant.
Exactly. That's great. Exactly. So no, I'm going to be mindful. If the pink elephant wants to show up, that's great. But now what have you said? I don't care if the pink elephant shows up. I literally don't care if it's there. It'll be there. It might be annoying to a certain level, okay, but I don't care that it's there. And that not I don't care like, oh, I don't care. No, I don't care. It's an ease. There's an ease about it. I don't care that it's there. I'm going to live my life like this where I want to be right now. And all of a sudden the pink elephant's not there for days at a time. Then it shows up again. So that you can't trick your mind into not being in it. Right? You got to be, when you sit with it, it's an allowing for it to be there and not caring if it wants to go away or not. And you'll be surprised that the going away happens more often and a lot quicker as a byproduct, not as an intention to make that happen. And people think, oh, how do you do that? Like, how do I tell my mind, you don't tell your mind nothing. You just allow. It's an allowing. It's a surrendering and allowing for something that's uncomfortable to be there, and still focusing on where you want your energy to be, what you're doing right now, your family, your project you're working on, whatever it might be, right? And all of a sudden, this doesn't feel like the big bad wolf anymore. It goes from being a wolf to my dog Milo, right? We were talking about it outside before, right? Like a wolf is this big. We were joking around how my dog evolved from this big monstrous wolf, that are bigger. If you ever see a wolf, they're like twice the size of a regular dog.
Scarier.
They're scarier, and they've evolved into like this cuddly little teddy bear that I have for a dog. But so I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, but that's the nutshell that I want to. Let's say, I don't just want you to. Even though I always say passively listen to the show, but like let it be some useful, let it be useful to you in the sense,
You have to do some work.
yeah, there's
Work. I say work, but work.
the majority of the people we talk about on the show is that silent sufferer.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people don't want to step out and say, I suffer. And the whole point of this practice is to reduce suffering.
110%.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think back of before we started this, I don't even have to, I'm going to go way back. I was in my early 20s and I was on like 6 different medications in my early 20s. Now, don't get me wrong. I handled a lot business wise. It was a lot on my plate, but perhaps I could have done it mindfully. Perhaps if I was, armed with mindfulness, I could have done it way differently. The story in my head
Excuse me.
was that one. And I was living in that story.
You made that your reality.
Right. That was my narrative. So to the point that it was harming my health. And you could understand why, if you don't step outside that traumatic life that you're living, your maladies can intensify. So,
Sure.
All of a sudden you find God when you realize, the end is near. Now we're looking for God. Now we're looking for the universe. Now we're looking for peace of mind.
That's the mind looking for a story to make it feel better. That's all it's doing.
And
No, I'm not saying like God doesn't exist or anything like that.
And to your point of the infirmity doesn't really go away, or it can, who knows? But
It's not going to hurt you.
for the simple fact that because we are a chemistry set.
Only going to help.
So for the simple fact that you reduced the physical stress that's on your body because you reduced the mental stress that's on your brain, things can flow better. There's different chemicals being emitted, which help other processes in your body, which perhaps can lengthen your life, which perhaps could, whatever. There's no, I don't even pretend to be a scientist. That's why I say, he likes to, he explained it here in a scientific way about the amygdala and blah, blah.
It was a very well-written therapeutic piece.
Independent of all that, the practice, you can physically, and when I say physically, I mean, you can feel the difference. And if you feel that difference, there's a difference. There is a marked difference. Like I intend on taking this practice to the end zone. I am going all the way to the end zone with this practice, meaning for the rest of my life.
Oh, okay. I was trying to grip the analogy.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah,
it's
your new, as you would say, your new iOS.
Yeah, and I intend on this lengthening my life. I'm not saying it, no, because whatever life is going to throw at you, it's going to throw at you. But
it's not going to shorten your life.
That's it.
Like
That's it.
Stress will shorten your life. There's no, I mean, it's well known that, people who are depressed and identify with that depression, and Alzheimer's is a very common disease that strickens people who are like that. Or if somebody has or is getting Alzheimer's or a form of dementia and they're a depressed person, how quickly, I saw this with a family member, got dementia at a fairly younger age, maybe older than me, maybe mid-50s, right? But was always a very kind of somber, depressed person, right? And as he got older, this person depression became more prevalent. It's like when he was diagnosed with the dementia, it progressed like that. Like that.
And
like I'm saying, it was probably 6, 7, 8 years, and unfortunately, the person passed away then. Yeah. Yes, it was young. And I'm not saying there's a direct correlation, but if that person would have had unfortunately, it wasn't around, they didn't have access to anybody in their life who understood this or could show them how to live like this, I could almost guarantee that would have been elongated. I don't know how long, even maybe just 3, 4, 5, 6. It would, because it would have been especially in the earlier years where the faculties are still there.
Right.
I mean, then on the back end, when the faculties are gone, you're just watching your mind. You're not really identifying with much because you can't. But in the beginning, instead of the stress of I have this is happening, and the woe is me, that amplifies everything, and it speeds up the clock. It speeds up because you're poisoning your body constantly. And it can go for anything, for cancers, for any kind of disease, for arthritis. We're going to be stricken by things. I am. We all get sick. And I've always said to this day, I don't heal, no, miraculously, but things tend to quiet down because I don't give them the attention that they want. Some things linger. Yeah, I have things. We all have issues in life physically. I have things that linger, but I don't allow them. I try not to allow them to become the main story, the main attraction of my life, right? And what happens is maybe my body finds a way to take care of some of these things on their own, quietly, right?
Yeah,
slowly, just that went away. I haven't even noticed it's been bothering me lately. Are there things that we do? Yes, I go to the gym. I try to stay active.
Right.
We have to do our part also. Right. We can't be eating cheeseburgers every day and French fries, slamming McDonald's down our throat and thinking, well, I'm mindfully eating McDonald's, so I'm never going to get fat or sick. No, I mean, there's a direct correlation, especially physically.
Calories in.
Calories in, yeah. I mean,
you can't lie to yourself.
You can't lie to yourself. But if you're doing the things, and Dr. Joe talks about this all the time, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? That's one of his things is take your supplements, do the right thing, and then use this approach, and you'll be surprised how the body kind of reacclimates. But we kind of went off on a little tangent. But the in and the with, I love that, because majority of people in life live life in life. They're in their lives. Yeah. They're in the stories. They're in everything that happens. Everything that happens is happening to them. Everything that happens is, they're in it. It's their luck. This is my story. And that's where you want to separate and go, it's not. You're believing that it is. The events that are happening. There's no denying that. But you get to shift and you get to create your reality. Just because something is happening to you doesn't mean that that's how your life has to be. It doesn't mean that, well, I'm going to ignore it. No, I want to invest my energy in what's actually beneficial to me, even though this is happening right now.
Yeah.
And you get to live. There's two different ways you could live your life. You could live your life and this is happening and it fucking sucks and this is my luck. Or this is happening and I'm still going to spend time with my family, be engaged in the things that I want to do, take care, do the things that bring me joy in life in spite of, that's why I like that word too, in spite of this happening. So yeah, man.
So many times that trauma is so strong and is so impactful on that memory, that it binds, and that's it. You are that, and it is you, and that's it. It never can unbind. So you'll never sit with it, because how can I sit with myself?
It's realizing,
I'm always here, but there is nothing more beautiful. I mean, I'm sure there's more beautiful, but there's a very beautiful thing when you see somebody who has been through trauma and they tell their story in a new perspective, whereas they can tell you about before and they can tell you about now, and they understand trauma because they did it, they lived it, and they also were able to disassociate from it and move on with their life. Like I've seen before, rape victims, where this woman was giving some sort of seminar, and she was raped. I think she was horribly raped. I think she was some sort of sex slave or whatever it is. Okay, yeah. So meaning, the point is, she comes out of it, and you would think, okay, this poor woman is shot. No, she wasn't shot. She was for a minute.
Of course. There's a processing point.
And now she can sit here and talk to you about it as if it wasn't her.
And when we say it on the show, joking around a lot of times, the superpower of the soul, that is, I mean, it's not a superpower, but it sure does come damn close, because when you could see something that's happened in your life, not to you, but it's happened in your life as a third person perspective, almost like I'm watching it, that did happen. That was unfortunate. Of course, it's horrible. I didn't enjoy it. It was a very horrible time in my life, but it's not who I am now.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you say that? Is that happening to me right now?
So I forget who this. Yeah, I forget who it was.
It's not happening to me now. So then how can it be you? It's something that happened to you. But is it happening to you now? Well, no. And this is for a traumatic event like that, right? Not more of a annoying, anxious, fearful thought that's annoying. We have another question for that also. But for this one, is that happening to you now? No. So if it's not happening to you right now, why are you living your life as if it is? It did happen. Unfortunate. All that. You could process it. You could talk about it. Or you could suffer it. What do you want to do? And that's a choice that people don't realize. They suffer it instead of choose to evolve and transcend it. The other one for the annoying thought is, well, was that your thought? What do you mean? Well, that scary thought. Was that your thought? No, why would I want to have that thought? Whose thought was it then? It wasn't yours. So, and that's where you kind of get the dog head. Like first they're kind of confused. Like, I'm trying to show you, even that thought is not your thought. Why are you suffering something that you didn't want there? You didn't want it to be there. So why are you suffering that? Doesn't mean it's going to go away, but that's where you could just, okay, I don't want you, but you want to come. And there might be feelings that are attached with it. And that's great. If there are, you might, the body's going to react. The thought's going to come. Sometimes before you could even have the awareness of realizing what that thought is, the body automatically reacts. So you get like the jittery, anxious little feeling, like you could feel it. Like you could feel like your body pulsating a little bit, but then once you get that thought and you kind of do this to it, and you look at it, all of a sudden you feel that just starts to go away because that amygdala which got engaged becomes disengaged now because you've done this. You've gone from here and you've pulled it apart, and once you're looking at it, the amygdala says, "Wait, this isn't happening to me. We're watching this happen." Okay. And it might be, maybe the amygdala gets confused. I don't know. I'm not a neuroscientist. I don't know how that works. But it looks at it, and all of a sudden the body starts to calm down because I'm looking at this thought. I'm not this thought, right? So,
that to me, that's powerful. And because I again, going back to the story of this woman, I don't even remember her name, but she was successfully
one of unfortunate Melly.
Successfully married with children
when it happened.
No, post.
Mm-hmm.
So in her, let's say in her future life, in whatever, past, post the trauma, she's married with, happily in love with her husband, has children. And you would think many times when you hear this story, a person is ruined for life after living through such an event. And to think that if you're one of the unfortunate people that this happens to, there is life.
Absolutely.
There is life after such a traumatic, and that's a bad one. It's a very bad one. So that's one that I don't know anybody who can get over it. But let me tell you something. When I see somebody like that they did get over it in the sense of they didn't get over it. They learned how to live with it, not in it. Because I'm sure she can describe to you.
Oh yeah, the memories don't
smelled what he was.
The memories don't disappear, but they will fade somewhat.
Exactly. So imagine that this woman on part two of her life, has children, is married. I'm sure that right after the trauma, she, as far as she's concerned, she's probably dead inside. Right? It's usually happens. You're dead.
Oh, that's the disassociation you spoke about before. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, that's when it would happen. That's a survival mode. The brain does.
Yeah, you're just dead.
Snap, but it doesn't last very long. But it does. You will do that.
And this is very, very powerful. I mean, and let me tell you something. So my thing was anxiety, and always anxious, and always and depression. Also, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to what I just mentioned.
Yeah, but she made a choice to create a reality in spite of what happened to her.
And the reason I mentioned that case, is only to say that anything before that case, you can do. You can handle this. You got this. Because if you don't want to live with all that suffering, my God, this is an easy step to make.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think with this, it doesn't matter. And it's not even a matter of putting a grade onto the amount of the traumatic event, or whether if it's just
when it's this big.
Whether it's just a fearful thought or obsessive thought or an anxious thought or an anxious feeling or general anxiety disorder or depression or whatever it might be, or a real traumatic event like this woman or soldiers or, first responders who deal with PTSD. And this is where people get caught up when they try to measure the amount of pain. It's, bro, this works for a scary dog, but it's not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Right.
And we've done the whole virtual reality thing where, like, if I put a virtual reality mask on, and we've spoken about this on the show, and I play something, my body's going to react as if that's what's happening right now. Like, no, it doesn't matter. You could be whispering in my ear, John, this really isn't a cliff. But I see a cliff and I'm standing here. My legs are going to tense up. My body's going to act like, dude, what are you fucking talking about? I see a cliff. We're going to go over it right now.
And I'm looking at you wearing the thing and you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm saying you're sitting.
The mind doesn't realize the difference. So if I believe that this traumatic event was horrific and this is what's happening to me and this mind was bigger, I'm creating this story around whatever happened. It's going to feel insurmountable, but it's the same process that I would use for somebody who's dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder or anxiety is the same process that you use for somebody who's dealing with PTSD and whatever that woman went through. That's a form of PTSD. Like when she went through, it's a post-traumatic syndrome. That was a traumatic event that she went through. The process is the same. It's not disassociating with the thought, like he said in the article, right? It's not disassociating because you go dead inside. This is that's why I'll say it again. That's why I love it. It's an allowing it to be there and making, he says, with and in, and then we take it a step further and making a choice to live the life you want to be. That's what I love about ACT, right? It's acceptance, commitment, therapy. That commitment part is the choice. Acceptance is you're here. Commitment is I'm making my choice. Value-based decision, how I want to live my life.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden
regain your power.
All of a sudden, the thought becomes from instead of being here, like it's in me, you pull it out and you go, I see you, memory. I see you, thought. I see you, story in my head. But my life's happening right now. And all of a sudden, a second reality that comes, a second story. Like this story gets put on a shelf and, okay, you could come with me. And this story starts to take place because this is a story that I want. This is a story that I want to experience. Right? There's absolute freedom. I don't know a better word. There's a freedom to it. There's a peace to it. And again, we'll say it all the time. Sure, the story's going to come back. This isn't about it going away. And you don't do it with the intention of making the story go away. You do it with the intention of making a choice to live how you want to live. And she did that. And I mean, if you find her name out, that'd be great. I'd love to read the story someday. But kudos to a person like that who's able to do something that everybody has, by the way, the faculties to do and the ability to do. This isn't like, some people are just better at sports than others.
That's not that. Yeah.
That's not that. It's well, we all have this. We're all born innately with it. We just are blind to it until life either kicks us in the nuts and makes us go, yo, I don't like what's happening in between my ears. That's why we always say sometimes the people who aren't challenged in life, I feel bad for them. It's almost as a pityness that you don't get to realize how to truly experience life. Because if things are going swimmingly well all the time, it's almost like, like the devil's, and he's just old, because we were brought up both Catholic and religious. So like, these are the ones that come to mind, even though it's not like, my belief system or not how I live my life. Like the devil keeps those that it wants nice and quiet. We're not going to challenge you. Keep doing your thing, just as long as you stay away from that guy, God. Like you don't go to God. And it's the kind of that same thing. Like it's almost what's the word I'm looking for? Not drug, but you're in a trance.
Yeah.
You're in a trance going through life, everything's swimming, but you never realize it's this other part where you could just see what's happening in your life.
You step outside the matrix.
You step outside the matrix. Yeah. So sometimes people have those storybook lives. are they actually experiencing life? Like, that's why I say embrace challenges when they happen. Embrace pain when it happens. Not like, the old memes, embrace be the pain. Embrace it because it's there to teach you something, and it's there to teach you how to see life differently. I don't know. That's what I think, at least. But what do I know? I've only been doing this for 7 years, wrote a book, have a podcast with my buddy here.
And truth be told, if we would not have embarked on this, I'm going to be honest and say we could have very much ended up a statistic like many people. They take their lives because they don't know what to do.
Amen.
They become people that they're not even happy with because they're not in control of anything. It's just the story is the story, and this is the way it is. And yeah, I'm crazy. Okay, I know I'm crazy. Okay, and you can hear the cuckoo, cuckoo.
Yeah.
Because they have no idea that this exists. But inside everybody, there's, let's say, a driver. Inside everybody, there's a watcher.
Everybody, the watcher's there. It's always there. We just don't. It's your spirit, your soul, your energy, your whatever word you want to use. It's what makes you work. All right? It's that part of you that's able to truly experience life outside of the mind, which is great. That's sometimes weird, but great. It's odd. It can be odd at times, but that's in its own beautiful way.
Here's an idea for the next show.
Got to get a 6-pack?
Yeah.
In 30 days or less.
We're the wrong. I'm the wrong one.
Yeah, because me. Yeah, absolutely.
I can teach you how to get a.
You hear that? That's my stomach.
I can teach you how to get a very, very blurry 2-pack. That we can do. But the relationship with your watcher. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
Because
like that. Relationship with your watcher.
I think some of us are living in a shallow existence and believe that that's it.
But when you say I actually go even deeper. When you say relationship with your watcher, because there's probably a lot there when you say that, because a lot of people, a common, I'll say misunderstanding is people believe that, like, when you're here, everything is la, 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 and there's always this euphoric feeling. But sometimes when you're watching, there's sometimes you're experiencing, but with a whole lot of nothing in the background. So when you're the watcher, technically there's not supposed to be you're not paying attention to the narrative. You're just experiencing what's there. Like, let's say I was looking at a tree. When I'm watching the tree, if I'm doing it mindfully, I'm not listening to the narrative in my mind about the tree. I'm just watching the tree. But when you take that narrative out, so there goes all the, send the stories of how beautiful the green, the tree, the leaf, the flowing, the back and the forth, and the pretty bird that landed on it. And instead, you just left with sensory. I see, I hear, maybe I smell something, but I don't label any of it. It's just pure awareness. It could be a very odd place to be at times because you're expecting a story to jump in, and we need a description.
It's a thick subject.
Yes, that's why I said there's no description.
Because I wasn't even thinking about that.
Oh, shit, sorry.
Imagine you're on chapter 10, and I was thinking about chapter 4.
Oh, sorry.
And no. The watcher is also the you spirit.
Yes.
So I was thinking more in terms of when you have children and you want to instill values in them, where are those values that you want to instill in them coming from? Because you don't want to instill how to be a thief,
Shit, I've been doing it wrong.
You want to instill goodness, kindness. You want to instill
good moral values.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they come from a deeper place. They don't come from a superficial place. I hope.
No, they do come from a deeper place, and a lot of those there's a lot of those feelings aren't even things must be. It's not about you should be like this, because even then, I'm telling you, I'm not giving you a choice. It's more of a knowing that this is the proper way to act as a sentient being, right? This is how we should act as a human being. This is how should we act as a person towards others. And you could the best way you could probably do that, we could talk about that since we,
Yeah, but it's a good. It's a good.
yeah. The best way you could probably do it is by in your actions be an example.
Yeah.
But
But
more
I
to
tell
come.
you, that's a good topic. Because
Yeah,
that's a
because we have-
big topic.
I went one way,
Yeah.
for sure,
There's so
with the
many
experiencing in a blissless mind, you know, like we're in a mind where there's no description, and he was talking about it on a different level also. So, but you can approach that watcher so many different ways and explain it, because that's probably one thing we explain it on the show, but we probably haven't gone into too much of depth. Like every week we'll touch on it, but like, you know, your relationship with the watcher.
And because we're in modern times,
I'm married to my watcher. She's watching me from upstairs.
and because we're in modern times, we're gonna have next time we talk about the watch, we talk about the Apple Watcher.
Plug. No, I don't get nothing from Apple.
Yeah, no.
I should. Well, the friggin' phones I've bought over the.
Dad jokes abound.
All right. I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Did you see the back of my shirt? What it said?
No. Only my dog truly gets you.
Only my dog truly gets me.
Well, you ain't wrong about that.
No, man. All right. We're good. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for coming.
That's right. You paid a high price to get here.
All of you in our audience out there, appreciate it.
You deserve the best.
You deserve the best, so you got the best. But everybody have a safe week. Be safe. Stay healthy.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day if you're Patrick, Irish, or Catholic. Or you just like beer and corned beef. That works too.
And drinking Shamrock shakes from McDonald's.
Oh, I've never had one.
I never had one, but I hear they're like crack.
I just can't drink green shake unless it's pistachio gelato.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
No.
Because then there goes our 6-pack and there goes our show.
I'd rather eat like a big cheeseburger than drink those calories.
Okay, I'd rather do both.
Yeah, but then it's double the calories. No chance of 6-pack. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks again. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace, love. Later.
Peace and love.
The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.